Ah, it's too bad. You can't see my little Halloween. Where is he at?
That's solid.
I don't know if you can see the.
Is it Boba Fett going trick-or-treating with the Mickey Mouse
Yeah.
pumpkin head? That's just, I actually thought about that today. I was like, I gotta have, like I was looking for I'm not a big, I like Halloween. I love like fall, almost like
Oh,
in
yeah.
basic white girl levels.
Same here.
But I hate getting dressed up. I don't know what it is. I like Halloween. I like the trick or treating. I like the pumpkins. I like jack-o'-lanterns, all the stories. But I like dread someone telling me that like, oh, this is what we're doing, but you have to wear a costume. I just want to be like, can I just wear a t-shirt? I hate the face paint. I hate whenever it dries on your face and then it gets all crusty. I hate, one year I had to be, so I'm a total Star Wars nerd, but I've never seen any of the Avengers movies or Marvel movies outside of the very first Avengers.
Come out just a second.
okay.
We'll keep this combo going. Freddy, everything's looking and sounding good to me. I'm gonna start us going live with that starting soon screen.
Cool.
And we can keep setting up like your background there. All right, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I don't really know what to do with it.
Well, I was just saying that
just get something back there. Just put that Boba Fett helmet. That's good enough, really. That spices it up quite a bit.
Look at this. You ready?
Oh, it's oh my gosh. Yes. I love it.
This candy's no good to me dead.
Or in 2020, all right, this is a good bit. We'll save it.
Okay.
I was going to say it's no good to me if I'm dead. More like COVID. All right. Go ahead. Tell your story.
Well, I was just saying that like I hate getting dressed up for Halloween, and the one year that I had, like our group of friends we were all going to be the Avengers, but this is a couple years ago, so all the movies hadn't come out yet, and I had to be Iron Man, and everyone was like, "Oh, make your costume," and I was like, "No way!" So I spent way too much money on some like costume that I just found on the internet to be Iron Man, but I had no context about what I was supposed to do, so I watched the very first Avengers movie, and that's the only Marvel movie I've ever seen. I haven't seen any of the Captain Americas. I haven't seen any of the Iron Mans. I'm not a very good nerd in that regard, in the most positive way possible. But I was telling Freddy, I love everything about fall and Halloween except for getting dressed up.
Yeah, what's awesome is since we've had kids, we've been able to coordinate our Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
So a couple years ago, we did. I was Han, my wife was Jyn Erso, and our daughter was Rey. So we were kind of going across like the different properties.
Yeah.
There. You had sequel trilogy, original trilogy, and
that's awesome.
And spinoffs, and it was awesome. Now we've got 4 kids, so we need to figure. I'm probably just going to use my Han Solo costume every year. Last year I was Ash Ketchum.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Oh,
and,
gosh.
Our kids were Pikachu and Charmander, and my wife was Misty, which was super hot.
That's that's solid. I don't like, that's one of those, I think it might have been about a year ago or something. Like I was going through old stuff and found like when the Game Boy Color came out, and I had the Pikachu edition. I was like for my 9th birthday. I remember getting the Pikachu edition, and I found it and like started playing around again, and like I was like, I have to stop this for.
I want everybody hugging each other.
Uh-oh. I forgot to warn you, Freddy. We're going live, man. Here we are. They don't know what you're talking about now. They just think that Freddy's got some kind of fantasy that involves a lot of hugging. A lot of hugging. No, and welcome to Legends Lookback. This is exactly the place to be. How's everybody doing tonight? Looks like we got some good people with us in the chat. And even if you're bad people, hey, we're glad to have you with us in the chat. As we were getting warmed up, making sure everything was working on our end, we were just talking about our mutual love of Pokemon. Turns out that Freddy's been holding back on me, that he hasn't been playing Pokemon Go with me every day. Just me and Joxy. Me and Joxy and some of my neighbors. You're a big Pokemon fan, Freddy?
So not just Pokemon, right? It's Power Rangers, Star Wars, Legends.
We discovered the Power Rangers thing. We discovered that one.
And Pokemon. It's funny how we are basically the same person on different sides of the country.
At least our nerddom. How about you, Jake?
Yeah.
Where's your Pokemon fandom lie? Are you a part of the Squirtle squad, my friend?
I'm not part of the Squirtle squad. I went through real big phases of it when I was a kid. I collected cards back. Did you all ever go, like, there used to be Books A Million, like you would go and get your packs and you would like, everybody would go on like Tuesday nights or something like that and trade. Every time I bring up Books A Million though, everybody's kind of like, I forgot about Books A Millions. I forgot those.
You could buy books in a store instead of in off the internet?
Yeah. And
off
so
Youtini.com using our Youtini affiliate links.
Of course, make sure they're the Genius link. I posted that one time and didn't get one, and Corey got on me for it.
Oh yeah, he'll get you. He'll get you for sure.
But I don't know. I played the games. I remember watching the movies. I still have my book of cards somewhere, but as my Star Wars fandom has grown and grown, my wallet can only really afford one fandom to the extreme, and I have dedicated myself to Star Wars on that one.
I totally feel you there, and so does my wife, because we've got several extreme fandoms happening all at once in my house. I keep like a pretty strict Pokemon card budget. Don't spend a ton on it. Right now there's this brand new set that just got released with a very, very rare shiny Charizard. I literally went to 5 stores this week searching for it. I'm like, hey, you guys got any Charizards? And and they're like, no, man, should have came days ago. I was like, oh, man, I guess I've just got to play the game online like everybody else right now. I want to feel the cards between my fingers. But what else do you guys want to feel between your fingers? How about this episode of Legends Lookback, everybody? That was the worst transition ever. Video editor, who is it? Nathan? Nathan, make sure you edit that one out. Good to have everybody with us here tonight. We've got Jake, we've got Freddy, we've got Cheryl, we've got Meg, probably other people, I don't know, working on that. Trying to find all the different lists that show me who's here and who's not and all that good stuff. Almost like I'm the Legend Santa Claus. I can see who's naughty and nice. And anyway, this is getting real weird. We're real quick. Worst segue ever.
Pivot. What else?
Pivot.
All right, see if I can get my wife to come take my chair and host the show for me, and I'll just go to bed like other people in the Eastern time zone after 9 o'clock. I do have, however, an important Legends issue to bring up as we get started here. And that is, today on the internet, I saw one of these rumors. You know what I'm talking about, right, Jake? Like these kind of rumors that are like, should I be reading this? Is this anywhere remotely credible? Doesn't matter. I'm going to say something about it. I'm going to press send on that tweet. And that is the rumor. Everybody, if you're scared of Star Wars rumors, all right, you've been warned for like 2 minutes here. We're going to talk about this. There's a rumor on the internet today that there's going to be a Darth Bane Disney Plus series.
Oof.
What do you mean, oof, Freddy? Hopefully that's a good oof, man.
It is a good oof. And I feel like, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. I think this is, in every good way possible, but I love how much they're milking Darth Bane.
Milking Darth Bane, a Star Wars story. Am I right?
This show, man, I tell you.
For sure.
Well, I want to, my thing is like, I'm the most gullible, naive person when it comes to this kind of stuff, where I just like, I know it's a rumor, but then like, I'll go to Twitter, I'll bounce around on some of my Instagram site or pages that I follow. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, this is going to happen. And so then I start getting back into the whole, like, well, where they've plugged these characters like Bane and stuff throughout, like season 6 of the Clone Wars and like this little things. And I'm like, how can it not happen? This has been foreshadowed all this, but at the same time, I try not to get my hopes up because the higher you fly.
Yeah. You got to manage. If there's one motto at Youtini and it's not that Corran Horn is the greatest Jedi that there ever was, our other main motto in Youtini is this: manage expectations. Am I right, Freddy?
You have to. You have to manage expectations because you're going to hype yourself up with your own fandom, and your own fandom, your headcanon, is always the best canon to you, right?
Yeah.
And like, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, when I was talking about the Division, when that game came out, I was like, man, you're going to be able to play off your iPad and blah, and did not happen. It's always better to just sit back and I mean, personally, I don't like to give in to rumors like that. I just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
But if you just chill out and just see what happens and just try not to think about it, you'll be surprised at how surprised you are with how much
you're
you
making
like
a great point, Freddie, and you sound so reasonable, and I just love listening to your voice in my earbuds. But I've got to say, I'm not going to manage my expectations. I'm going to go ahead and be excited about this. I'm going to reread the entire Darth Bane trilogy this weekend. And as I do so, I'm going to use my brand new fan casting, which, yes, I've already fan casted both Bane and Xana, and so are you. All right, everybody with us in the chat, Freddy, Jake, I want to hear your best fan cast for Darth Bane and for Xana. I know we talked about Bane, like a couple months ago with Eric, and we're going to get back to it. We're going to be talking about Heir to the Empire tonight, but for like a minute here, okay, who is your Bane? Who's your Xana? And is everybody just in agreement on the fact that Bane absolutely has to be Josh Brolin?
I swear to God, that is exactly what I was going to say.
His exact Thanos costume?
That is
it's gotta be Josh
exactly
Brolin, right?
what I was going to say. So I can't even give my fan casting now because you took it, but it's okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not the only person on the internet today who has said that. However, I did have that idea original of the fact. Okay, we're all thinking it. There's like some kind of there's a theory, isn't there? Oh, are you guys frozen? That's not great. We'll get it. Oh, just as soon as Cheryl said that we had a flawless start tonight, you both freeze. So that's awesome. Okay, well, I'm seeing you now. I'll try to restart Jake here. Jake's hand is frozen like he's about to put down the backward slap onto somebody.
He's about to slap me.
we can hear you, Jake, so that's good. All right,
work.
There he goes.
He's back. That's good.
Okay.
There's this like scientific theory that spontaneous what is it called? Spontaneous ingenuity, spontaneous invention, that like the major breakthroughs in world history have happened at the same time by multiple people all at once. So this happened like with the creation of the light bulb. This was happening when it came to like the atomic bomb. Not like that's a great invention or anything, but like we had multiple space travel, putting people in space, Star Wars, all that good stuff. It was happening simultaneously by different people. So, what do you think, Freddy? Who's your fan cast? We got me and Jake and everybody else in the chat, or at least Meg, saying that for us it's Josh Brolin. How about you?
It's so funny because I had a completely different.
You can go a different direction. That's fine.
Yeah, and so I was thinking. I don't know if you know Michael Clark Duncan.
I don't, but I'm about to Google him.
Yeah, so
and that's right. That's just one word. Google him.
Yeah, he played in The Green Mile. He was one of the main actors in The Green Mile.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
he's been in
okay.
Oh, what else? He was in a comedy role.
Yeah.
What
if this new Disney Plus show involving Bane is a comedy? That would be something nobody saw coming, wouldn't it?
That would be very disappointing.
We can go ahead and call it. That would be
Bane
capital B, bad, and not like good bad. We want a Bane show that's bad, but like in a good way, like Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Breaking Bane. There it is. That's what we're gonna call it.
Breaking Bane. Okay, I like it.
Nailed it.
I never really clarified why I feel like they're milking it. It's just such a fan favorite that why would you want to recreate something different when you have something that's already pretty? It's like you've got a really good template and you've got the canon title now to change whatever you disliked about him before.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like that.
How about Xana? Who's your Xana?
Who's my Xana? You know what? I'm going to go, Jake, go ahead, buddy. You take
well,
this one.
I don't see that's hard for me because I don't like, I've thought about it in just like the, minute here since we've been going. I mean, I'm trying to go in and put what I know about the character in there. I would probably be happy to see someone brand new kind of jump in for that character. I think
that would work well. Have an unknown who becomes super famous for playing it's just, an awesome Darth Xana.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many strong young female characters now or actors that could step into that role.
Good save, Jake.
And do a really good job that, there's just so many people I could say, yes, I could see them doing it. Yes, I could see them doing it. So then my mentality is like, well, let's, this could be someone's breakout role.
Yeah, we could just have Daisy Ridley come back in, just playing a totally different character in the Star Wars universe. I like that. Andrew's answer in the chat. Andrew's got an excellent recommendation. Zendaya would be an awesome Xana. Could she do the physical enough? Could she do the flips and twists in the air?
She can't, Andrew, because she's Chasna Chaddick.
But that's more fan casting. Your fan casting can't cancel out our fan. All right, we're gonna have to start. That's
my chat.
Going once, going twice. Freddie, what's your casting, and why is it Scarlett Johansson?
Scarlett Johansson. I'm
just going full MCU.
So I don't know her name, but when I was looking at pictures of Darth Xana, I think she's in Mean Girls, or no, not Mean Girls. It's the one where they go back to prom. And she's the one that invented like the slim cigarette or something. I don't know why, but I picture her.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
I remember when we did. I remember when we did the episode on Darth Bane. I said that I thought that the actress who back 25 years ago played like the witch on the planet where the Power Rangers get their ninja powers. Oh, I forget what her name was. It's not Galadriel. That's another franchise. Anyway, she would be cool. Darth Racking? That's another franchise. I tried. Kate Blanchett? Okay. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Let us know, everybody in the Discord, who your fan casting would be for Darth Bane, Darth Zana, and which of us was the most right. And in the meantime, we're going to start our episode on part 2 of Heir to the Empire, which is why you're all here, right? We could talk about this all night. Let's roll the tape. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Lookback, a show brought to you by Youtini.com, a show that's been described as the favorite Star Wars podcast of the Squirtle Squad, where we talk about all things Star Wars Legends, celebrating our rich EU history, as well as diving into lesser-known Star Wars classics, except for not this week, because we're talking about like the most notorious Legends book there ever was in the history of all Legends, not just Star Wars Legends, but just like Legends in general. All right, I'm your host, Jared Mays. Today I'm joined once again from the Mustafar that is Southern California. 95 degrees, everybody, in his podcasting studio tonight. Freddy C. Other than the heat, how's it going, Freddy?
Not too bad. I'm so glad we're here to talk about Ruins of Dantooine. I'm pretty excited that.
Wait, what? Did I get the wrong book off the shelf? All right, episode's over. See you guys.
Yeah, it's really hot here. I'm losing it, as you can tell. Heat wave in California, and of course, we are lucky to not have AC here most of the year, except for today. So that's where I'm at.
Well, at least when you're recording a podcast, you don't have to worry about like the air conditioner being too noisy. But
No.
We would take the noise tonight. We would gladly take it. I told Freddy before the show, he was like, I might have to duck out for a minute because of the heat, if I get overheated. I was like, Freddy, grab an ice pack and let's do the show, all right? Let's just do the show. But as usual, you got me and Freddy, and once again, 2 weeks in a row with our new model where we're doing these 2-part roundtables. Glad to have him back in the studio with us, and what a beautiful studio it is. We've got the Grand Admiral of Star Wars YouTube himself, Jake Ruddle. How's that
What's
one?
up, guys?
Last week it was Mr. YouTube. You've been promoted 2 ranks.
I know.
All the way up to
I know.
Grand.
I haven't even put a YouTube video out since the last one yet, so I like this promotions, and it's not even having to do very much. So it's we got some things coming though. It's we've Emma's been releasing some videos, and Nathan's been releasing some videos, and we got some timeline videos that are going to be coming up here soon. That we've kind of got in the docket that I've been recording with and editing with some things. So hopefully you'll see my face back on the I don't even know. It's not the big
on the
screen.
tubes.
It's not the small screen.
On the tubes,
tube
man.
Screen.
On the tubes.
Yeah, on the tubes.
That's right.
I gotta say, I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. I've been watching, keeping up with it recently, and I like what you guys are doing, and I commend you guys for doing it. So
yeah, it's I mean, it's been fun, and that's what I mean. I think when we first started doing it and talking about it all back in May, I think was whenever I stepped in. We spent so much time like the hosts together. Nathan and Emma. I was doing some videos. Now Matt's jumping in with things. I mean, our whole group spent a lot of time like kind of building it with each other and kind of just playing around with each other before we actually put anything on YouTube. So I think that's kind of what makes it nice now, is because we're all partners in on it, the way that you guys have your partner stuff. And we've learned that it's a full-time job to be a YouTube star, even while we also have full-time jobs outside of that.
Can somebody please make a quote of that where Jake put his picture looking really stupid whenever he's making like a really bad point and has like a really weird face going on, because just freeze frame it on the worst possible Jake moment, and then just maybe we can get One IL in the chat who does calligraphy, amazing calligraphy on Instagram. Can you just like letter for us, in your beautiful handwriting, that amazing quote by Jake? If you want to be a YouTube star, what was it? I've already forgotten the rest of the quote.
I've already forgotten it too.
If you want to be a YouTube star, just be like Jake Ruddle. There we go.
But what I'm getting at there though is that it's nice because it's a team effort, and I've been able to do some videos, but I'm glad that Emma's there. I'm glad Nathan's there. I'm glad Matt's doing his stuff, because it takes a little bit of the pressure off. It's been a blast and everything, and I wish I could just do it all day long, but the real world jumps in, and I'd much rather
you got to
spend my time
teach
in a galaxy far, far away.
You got to teach America's future.
Oh yeah, imagine
all the good that's gonna do.
Teach the future. We had to have a lesson on civil discourse after the debate the other night.
Yeah, we got to make it out of 2020 if teaching the future even matters. We'll say that much. So. But for tonight, we're gonna put all those cares away. We are gonna dive deep into that amazing Legends book, Heir to the Empire, straight out of 1991. We'll say that this is a huge day for us as Star Wars fans, huge day for Youtini, because right after this, who knows, maybe we can just keep this podcast going. We can roll the tape right up until midnight Eastern, that is, not for you, Freddy. When we've got our stream happening right here on this channel. This is it's like we're the opener, right? We're opening for Squadrons gameplay. It's going to be happening right here on Youtini twitch.com/Youtini_US. This has got to go in the game where, ring a bell every time Jared botches the Twitch description. But for tonight, with this show, you can catch us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, because we represent both coasts like that. You can, of course, subscribe to the channel, show your support of the show with Twitch Prime, grab those credits from Amazon, and help us conquer the galaxy. Of course, now we're doing this new format with 2-part roundtables, because one part just isn't going to cut it with books like Heir to the Empire. Of course, we'll continue to post the audio each and every week in your podcast feeds. We've got our all-new podcast feed that you can like, subscribe, share, leave us a nice review, all that good stuff. And of course, thank you to our patrons who have helped get us here. Incredibly excited to be doing this live on Twitch, even with all of its technical difficulties that we've had. We're so pumped to be doing it this way. So much more fun to have you folks with us in the chat. I will say, last week we did our introduction to Heir to the Empire. We talked about all that fun behind the scenes stuff. We talked about the Brazilian covers, the original covers, the alternate arts. This week we're going to be diving into the overarching questions that we have. Last week we talked about the characters. We talked about Thrawn. We talked about Mara Jade. We talked about Captain Pelion. This week, Jake, what are you worshiping? Your
well, I was trying to
bowing down to it over there, lying prostrate on the ground.
No, I was trying to show the picture of Thrawn there, but then I with the
camera's so far away.
Yeah, it just didn't. I had an idea in my mind and it didn't work out.
This is what we call Legends Calisthenics with Jake Ruddle.
Yeah.
Little did you know that you were actually the gym teacher. Not just the English teacher. There you go. Move it over. Of course, we're talking about the... Yeah, Joxy's going to make a gif of that one for sure. For sure, you've just been gifted, Jake.
That's my goal this evening, is to turn into a gif.
Or if you were in the Zahn book, it would be G''IF.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
It's that's his chiss name. We'll say this much: this book came straight out of 1991. It was the first major Star Wars book to reignite the franchise, and something we omitted from last week's show that absolutely needs to go down on record is the fact that this book. I'm gonna actually let you guys guess about this. Freddy, I'm put you on the spot here. All right, we like to do some fun games at the start of Legends Lookback. What place in the New York Times bestsellers list do you think Heir to the Empire peaked at? How high do you think it got on the list? In recent Star Wars memory, the newest Zahn book, the newest Thrawn book, Chaos Rising hit number 9, I believe, which was pretty good. We were happy with that. There was some hullabaloo on the internet, on the tubes. How about you, Freddy? What do you think? How high did Heir to the Empire get? Everybody, put your guesses in the chat. Put a number.
This is a good one, because I don't really read the New York Times bestsellers and stuff like that, and I don't really pay attention.
I would call this my number one interest in all of Star Wars. is how high the books have ranked historically. I almost said hysterically. Historically, how high they've ranked on the New York Times bestsellers list. So the opposite of me is Freddy. He doesn't care.
Yeah,
but he's gonna guess anyway.
I just like reading the books, man. Let's see. I'm gonna say, I don't know why it speaks to me, but number 5.
Number 5. Okay, you got to guess. Jake, higher, lower? Price is right. Him. Go with 4 and just beat him out.
Well, I was gonna say 2. I feel like if it was 1, it would have Oh wait, it says on the top the number 1 New York Times bestseller. So actually, I guess all 3 of them were New York Times.
Oh, it says it right here on the cover.
Yeah, so I kind of cheated, but I was gonna be like, number 2, because it doesn't say that on the cover, and then I look at the cover and it literally says the number 1 New York. So is that the answer? I guess.
Yeah,
is that what
it's number 1.
For?
It was number 1, the number 1 book in the world.
That was a great example of setting your expectations a little low, and you're just like, oh man, number 1, that's
manage
really
expectations. Oh my gosh, manage those expectations. What a great moment. All right, you want to guess how many Star Wars books have ever debuted at number 1 on the New York Times bestsellers list?
So we're sticking to debuts, didn't make it up there.
Oh come on, I don't know, Jake. I just chose the word. I mean, just say like ever reached number 1.
I'm never gonna be asked to do this again.
All right. How many do you think, or at least like try to guess what one other might be? Wes
since
says
5 is speaking to Freddy.
Wes guesses 6.
Freddy.
You're gonna say 5? 5 ever?
Well, that was speaking to Freddy, and Freddy is speaking to me, so I'll say 5.
Freddy Spready. And
Freddy.
That's not going to be his new nickname at all.
Make that a shirt, guys.
Oh, please don't. No, Joxy. Get out of here, Joxy. No, don't do it.
Spready some Freddy on your Thursday night.
On your spaghetti? All right, this is getting out of hand. No, this is getting out of hand.
It is. I'm going to cool it.
Whew, I'm getting sweaty. I don't know about y'all. How about you, Freddy?
Been there.
Sweaty Freddy.
I'm still sweaty.
All right, there are officially... And thank you, Andrew, for that bit to celebrate Freddy Spaghetti. We're not going to say that other one ever again. Ever. Not going to happen. Freddy, did you take your guess? Jake's guess is 5?
I mean, I was going to go with 5 as well, but let's go with 10.
All right, splitting the difference. The correct answer is 7.
Okay.
/ kind of 8, because there was one Legacy of the Force book that in its paperback release reached number 1 on the paperbacks bestsellers list. But I'm counting it. So the correct answer in all of its entirety is 8. The books are this: Heir to the Empire, The Force Unleashed, The Force Awakens, Thrawn Alliances, Legacy of the Force something. I never did write it down, so apparently my number's wrong. We're going to have to do a little bit more Googling. Anyway, the answer is either 7 or 8. I think it's Legacy of the Force Revelation, and I just got off on a line here and miscounted. Anyway, and then also most recently Ahsoka as the YA book. It was number 1, the number 1 YA book. And so there we go. There's some Legends trivia for you as we get started. Last week we of course did the summary of the book. We're not going to be recapping the entire thing all over again. You're more than welcome to access the Twitch stream, the YouTube video, or in your podcast player you can go in and listen to that if you would like. But we will warn you, if you have not read Heir to the Empire, the Legends Classic, please go do so. It's excellent. Send me a message in Discord and I'll send you the audiobook one way or another. I'll drive it to your house if I have to. You're gonna love this book. Except for those of you who are overseas, not driving overseas. Till we get our X-Wings. Yeah, we'll get there one day. But I will say, as we get started with talking about the overarching questions, there's one thing we've got to talk about first, and that is today is the last day that you can use our discount code on Teespring to get your very own Thrawn-inspired, Disney, if you're listening, Thrawn-inspired, but in no way exactly a Thrawn shirt. It's just like inspired us in some way. Shirt made by our incredible creator, Joxy. I'm going to pull it up any minute here. As soon as I find it, it's amazing. Guys, have you ordered your, Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, isn't it? This is our, what are we calling it? Red Eye in the Blue Void of Space. It's got a name that's really something cool like that. I gotta say, I just got paid a couple days ago. This is probably gonna have to happen. So you can go to youtini.com, click on community, click on merch, and you can get your own in men's or women's. versions, whatever that means. You can get your own, no matter your size, and rep
Or
your
style.
support of or style. And of course, we've got our own Legends Lookback shirts. We'll talk about that in a little while. But first, guys, let's get into the meat of it. Last week, we talked about the characters. We talked about Mara Jade and whether or not Luke really did ruin her life. We talked about how she has cast an incredible legacy within EU characters. We talked about her first impression on the EU. We talked about the great smuggler himself, Talon Karrde. We talked about our original trilogy characters, Luke, Leia, and then the original characters that Thrawn creates, and boy, does he do a great job. We talked about Captain Pelion, Jeruus Sabayoth, which I never get tired of saying. I just want a ringtone of myself saying Jeruus Sabayoth. Is that conceited? Is that narcissistic? Let's put it this way. I would like to have a ringtone of Mark Thompson saying Jeruus Sabayoth, because music tonight.
Captain Pelion.
That's not bad, Jay. All right, I'm going to close my eyes. Say it again.
Captain Pelion.
No, not as good. It was better with the eyes open. All right, I'll say this.
You put me on the spot. You
Wait,
can't
what was
do
that, Freddy?
to
What
me.
was that? I loved it.
Error.
Yeah, if you guys weren't here last week, we ended out the episode with what was the greatest clip in the history of Star Wars audiobooks. And I should know, I'm writing the Youtini guide to Star Wars audiobooks, and it's going in there for sure. You hear that, Meg? It's going in the guide. All right.
It should be in there.
It's got to go in. It was amazing. But you know what else is amazing? Everything else we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about the overarching questions. That is, issues relating to plot, issues relating to this book's impact on the larger expanded universe as a whole, and all of that good stuff. We're going to start off, of course, with something that happens very early in the book, and that's a really sweet, perfect, heartwarming... I'm about to shed a tear just thinking about it. This heartwarming conversation that happens between Luke and the ghost of old Ben Kenobi. You guys remember this scene? It's early on in the book. Old Ben is trying to peace out, and Zahn gives his own his own explanation of why that had to happen. We'll talk about that in a minute. Why it doesn't really work for the story to have old Ben popping up, solving Luke's problems all the time. Luke's got to take, his step into Jedi masterhood without his teacher ghost looking over his shoulder all the time, which really has creepy implications if you think about it. But please don't. And so early in the book, he's having this conversation with old Ben. Luke, like a wise guy who knew the title to Episode 7, botched it. Luke, like a wise guy who knew the title to Episode 8, way back in 91, he whinily says to Ben, or at least Mark Thompson says it whinily, but I liked it. He says that he's lonely, and he's the last Jedi. It's almost like he looks into the camera when he says it. I'm the last Jedi. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And I'm going to hate it. Anyway, Ben says, however, you're not the last of the old Jedi, Luke. All right, can you do this in your best Mark Thompson Ben Kenobi impression, Jake? You got a Ben Kenobi? Not the last of the old Jedi, Luke. I think this is my favorite Legends quote ever, or at least one of them.
Not the last of the Jedi, Luke. The last of the old Jedi. Not the... I don't know. I can't.
Yeah,
it's hard.
You're doing horribly.
The first of the new.
Yeah, not.
I just imagine like you and McGregor. Not the
Hello
last.
there.
I don't know. I just.
Hello there.
I just like doing Captain Pelion with the Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's being mean to me.
Yeah, the rest of this episode is just going to be us saying hello there.
Yeah.
Not the
I'm
last.
not
Of
good at
and here's the
that.
quote: "Not the last of the old Jedi, Luke, but the first of the new." What an incredible Legends quote. If ever I needed to have a Legends poster with a quote on it. I do also like the quote from Rogue Squadron that begins the very first line of the book that says, "You're good, kid. You're good, Corrin, but you're no Luke Skywalker." So I like that quote too, because Corrin Horn. It's like the book starts off by acknowledging that Corrin is terrible. So that's a lot of fun. But with this quote, it really does have a lot of significance, doesn't it? How does this help Luke reframe and to get him set on the path that's eventually going to lead him into what becomes the entirety of the post-Return of the Jedi Legends timeline, Freddy? How does this set Luke off on this course that's basically defined Star Wars for 20, 30 years?
Yeah. I was wondering when I was a kid, why did he have to go? Because I feel it almost like Ben abandoned him, right? But this pushed Luke to realize that he had to do his thing, right? There was no one else. He was the alpha of the Jedi, not as in he was the most powerful, but he was the beginning, right? He's the
Yeah.
start again, because there was a purge. It didn't exist. It didn't exist anymore, and only a couple existed to kind of push the Jedi philosophy along, right? Only a few were around, and of course that changes depending on Legends and canon, right? But it essentially just got Luke to realize that he had to move forward. He had to move forward, and he had to look after the Jedi philosophy. He had to foster it into new people.
Yeah, that's good. And he really doesn't do a lot in this particular book. Zahn doesn't, in terms of establishing new Jedi. There's a character introduced who eventually does become a Jedi. We won't spoil too much about that. Most people probably already know, but just in case you haven't, we'll try to keep it contained to this book. It's obviously KJA and all of his Legends infamy, who introduces a whole new swath of Jedi in the Jedi Academy trilogy. Can't wait for us to talk about that. Nathan's going to join us for that before too long, before the year is over, before 2020 comes to its apocalyptic end. We're going to talk about the Jedi Academy trilogy. It's going to be a lot of fun, but this does really define Legends. Now, I've always said this is the biggest difference between post-Return of the Jedi canon and Legends, and that's Luke is successful with his Jedi Academy. That's not to say he's perfect. He makes a lot of mistakes along the way. You've got lots of galactic conflicts that happen. You got the Centerpoint Station, Thraken Sal Solo. You got the Black Fleet crisis. You got the Shadow Academy, the Yuuzhan Vong, the Darth Kaitis. You got Abeloth. There's a lot of problems that happen, okay? But didn't even talk about the Kaliks, the bug people. I mean, that's crazy. So there's a lot of problems, but Luke is successful. He's got a happy family of over 100 Jedi Knights who call him Crazy Uncle Luke. I mean, Grandmaster Luke. What's your opinion on this, Jake? How well do you think this quote and this conversation establishes the book as well as all of Legends into the future?
Well, I think, what a lot of people, I think for so much, this was the Last Jedi, like Johnson's Last Jedi, let the past die, kill it if you have to moment.
That's good.
And I think a
this
lot of
Last
people,
Jedi?
yeah, that Last Jedi. But I think a lot of people were kind of upset with that idea, but it wasn't really the first time that had been done. And I think kind of to build off what Freddy said, it was really kind of necessary to do that, because for Luke to take the step forward and to be his own person, he had to let the past die. I mean, the kill it if you have to, that's a little aggressive, but I think that was a Kylo Ren characterization thing.
Yeah.
But to let the past die, to set up, you weren't ever going to be able to set up something new, this new world, these new characters, this new Jedi Academy, this new Leia, you weren't ever going to be able to do that if you always constantly had the shadow of Ben Kenobi and Yoda and Darth Vader. You had to step out of that, and there had to be a moment. So I think it was really kind of, brave may not be, or courageous may not be the right word for it, but for Zahn to say, okay, I'm just going to do this and do it in the second chapter.
Yeah. I mean, it is bold at the very least to say something that was a staple. And the Ghost of Ben Kenobi is in all 3 original trilogy films. Obviously, you don't see the blue glowy, I don't think, in A New Hope, but you certainly hear him in the cockpit, which is an iconic moment as Freddy gets his Boba Fett Halloween bucket out. We got to talk about that before the show's over. What an amazing prop you got, Freddy. The candy. What was it you said before the show? The candy's no good to me dead.
That was Jake. That was good.
That candy's no good to me dead.
Yeah, and I was saying, like, it's no good to me if we're all dead, because 2020 and all that.
The Empire will compensate you
with Reese's. All right,
with Reese's.
And we are, of course, now in the month of October, if you're listening to this episode later. And before we get too off track, you want to chime in on this one, Freddy? Why was this such a bold move on Zahn's part to, in the second chapter, axe the Ghost of Ben Kenobi and remove him from the story? Was it necessary for Legends to happen?
Oof. Yeah, this is a good one because it's a bold choice, right? This is extremely bold to get rid of such a critical character. but I think in my opinion, it had to happen. And it had to happen because Jake put it very plainly, right? In order for Luke to grow, he needed to basically sever the thing that Luke was leeching onto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Sure.
if you think about it, imagine finding out like, hey, by the way, you're a super powerful being, and there's only two of us in this entire universe because this guy killed them all. And by the way, we're dying now, and it's all up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a tough thing. And I hate keep making references back to the new canon
No,
because
you can.
But
You
I
can't
mean,
in the first episode, but you can in part 2.
we hit so much of that, and I that's where I think I get frustrated with a lot of the criticism on some of these characters in the new canon, is because those concepts. And I don't know, maybe it's because we had new characters that we were seeing with in the new canon, and it was different when we're dealing with our Luke and our Leia and our Han. But I don't know, just that general concept of the perfect word was sever, to cut that and say, okay, now I've got to move on. But that's a character development on so many different levels. It's a kid growing up from their parents, and ours. I mean, everybody can think back to that moment that they've got where um they've had to cut something off and move on without it, and that's really the only way that they can move forward and be successful. It sucks,
Yeah.
it hurts,
Right.
but
yeah, it's in the Bible. Forget what lies behind and press on toward what lies ahead. There we go. Gotta have a Bible reference in every
don't
episode.
look back. I mean, and then it goes back to episode 1. Don't look back.
Your focus determines your reality.
Yes.
There we go.
So I think, I don't know, just necessary, and I think it worked out. It was done well.
Luke was focused there in the beginning. In chapter 2, you're right, it's on page 14 where this quote comes up, in case you're thinking about getting this tattooed on your body, because I sure am. In Arabish, of course.
Yeah.
My wife was like, is there really a language in Star Wars, and can you speak it fluently? And I was like, yes and no. No, I haven't dedicated hours to learning Arabish. I don't know. What kind of crazy person would do that? Yeah, I have, honestly. It was to prepare for my trip to Galaxy's Edge, because there were signs, and I was like, hey, this says there's a Dianoga in this water fountain, look! And nobody was around to listen to me. It was awesome. So it's in chapter 2 in this book, page 14, where this happens, and Luke's focus is on being lonely. Because you look at Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi, and he's really... he's brooding. He's obviously accomplished something, but he's hurt. I mean, he's deeply messed up. The Last Jedi, episode 8, takes that in a wildly different direction, which is he's messed up for the rest of his life. In Legends, it's like he's messed up for a scene. All right?
Yeah.
And in this scene, he's talking to Ben, and he's like, I'm pretty sad. There's no other Jedi, and my dad killed him. That's pretty rough. And,
and then I killed him.
Yeah, I mean, he's using Ben's ghost as his therapist, and Ben's like, no, I don't want to do that, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But instead, it's thinking about the fact that Luke then gets a new focus on training a new order of Jedi, and in this book especially, it's about saving the galaxy. But Luke's not the only one who had a potential crutch in this book. It's honestly Grand Admiral Thrawn. There's another storytelling crutch here that is. It's quite weird. And all the weirdness of Legends. And that's one of the things I love about Legends. What about y'all? Is how weird it can get. I mean, our site mascot is Corn Horn, for crying out loud. So, I mean, we like the weird stuff, don't we? With all those daddy issues and medallions. And
oh, man. Medallions.
Oh, for sure. Freddy, do you think the Salamari... We're talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's got these space salamanders he hangs around his neck in order to block Jarua Sabayoth from, taking over his mind and all that good stuff. Do you think that for him is a storytelling shortcut, or how do you think it's handled compared to the Ben Kenobi Force Ghost thing?
Yeah, I never really thought about it, but it kind of is like it's a creative crutch for sure. I mean, it's like there's many ways they could have done it. Like, oh, you're just in a building that happens to suck away your power, but instead they created an animal that has some kind of story behind it of why it's force repellent. And I thought that was pretty cool, because then it adds like a complex thing to it, where you can, read into this animal in like some kind of, book. I don't know, like the warfare book, right? One of those types. It creates more lore and world building and stuff like that. And I thought it was pretty interesting because I the whole time I read it, I was trying to figure out like what is the purpose of this thing, man? Like why is it like this? And it's got me thinking about it some more. So I thought it was pretty creative.
Yeah, it is creative. I like that you say that it contributes to the world building. How about you, Jake? Are you yes or no on the space salamanders?
Well, I was really turned off by them at first because I
space salamanders don't turn you on. What's wrong with you?
I was like in the sense of like I was just kind of like oh come on, like real, like I was trying to understand like that. Those first couple of things reading it, like what's he doing going here for this? Then I realized what was happening, but one, I kind of warmed up to it. I always keep in the back of my mind. I think George Lucas is the one who said it, is that the whole point of Star Wars and adding stories to Star Wars is to introduce new characters, introduce new places, and introduce new aliens, I guess. And so that's one of those things that I always kind of reminded myself as I was reading things, anything that any of the stories where I've kind of been like, I'm not totally down with that. I try to open myself, we're not just dealing with a planet. We're not just dealing with a solar system. We're dealing with a galaxy, and there's going to be a lot of stuff like that. So I warmed up to them. I personally, I think that like if this would have been, Timothy Zahn and George Lucas working together to make a movie, it would have been like an item.
Yeah. More of a MacGuffin. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that would have been
George
something.
Said, I don't like lizards.
Yeah. No, I don't like. Yeah. And it would have been something, I like the idea of the Emperor's Storehouse kind of stuff, but I feel like it would have been something. And then, that it would have maybe made it a little bit more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like to have the item and be protected and then kind of ship some things. I don't know. I thought it was creative. I ended up warming up to it. I don't think it distracted from the story any. It took me a minute to kind of buy into it.
Zahn in the behind the scenes 20th anniversary edition, we're going to have some kind of a game where we ring a bell every time we reference this thing. It's so shiny that my light is reflecting off of it, and I've got to turn it just right in the camera. So that's cool. That's how important this book is in Star Wars Legends. Timothy Zahn does come out and say he needed some kind of a storytelling mechanism to be able to prevent Jarua Sabayoth from using Force Persuasion, but dark side Force Persuasion, where he just takes over your brain powers. He uses this in order to prevent Sabayoth from having control over Thrawn. But I like that it introduces Wayland. It gets them... it introduces Mirkur, which is where the Ysalamari are, but then he connects the Ysalamari to, what are the beasts that are the Vornskurs? Is that what they're called?
Vornskurs, yeah.
That are hunting Luke and Mara later in the book. So they come back to Mirkur, and it's the Vornskurs have actually adapted to be able to hunt the Ysalamari by repelling the Force. And it's like he's created this entire ecosystem on Mirkur, which is something really rare in Star Wars, to be able to establish a new planet where its whole thing is not either this, and this is a storytelling crutch we've seen in recent Star Wars storytelling. Snow planet. We make Star Wars movie. We make sand planet. We make snow planet. This is Star Wars.
We need ice, exactly. We need sand, we need a jungle.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But here he creates this entire culture, this entire ecosystem, showing how the creatures have adapted and evolved. So at first it seems like a storytelling crutch, but if you really dig into it, you're right, Freddy, it really is some excellent world building, and it's with lizards, right? It's with salamanders, which is which is a ton of fun, of course, which I really enjoy. And we've talked about the storytelling shortcuts, and one of the things that we've talked about with this book, last episode, I gave it a 10 out of 10 out of Star Wars books. Jake and Freddy, did you both give it a 9.5?
No, that was just me, because I'm complicated and I'm the guy that everybody rolls their eyes about. It's like, come on, Jake, really?
Do you remember your score, Freddy?
I'm pretty sure I gave it a 10.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Okay. So it's you and me giving it a 10. Jake giving it a
Jake
9.
gave
I
it like a
just
5
because
probably.
remember me, I said like my tens are the masterpieces. This is probably your all's masterpiece, but I get it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I read it really fast. I liked a lot of things for it, but like my masterpieces aren't. I'm not having those moments where I'm like, space salamanders. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. So this book, while I consider it chef's kiss of a Star Wars book, it does have its goofiness, which I actually think enhances it.
Yeah.
But I know I've liked this book for a long time, so I've got the twinge of nostalgia that I can never quite separate. So let's talk about some of the weirder things. Where does this book miss? All right, and I've seen some criticism. Like I said last week, it has become popular to dump on Heir to the Empire, almost called it Heir to the Jedi, which is an appropriate book to dump on. No, we won't. We're all about positivity here at Youtini, Legends and canon and all that. All right, Freddy, where do you think Heir to the Empire misses the mark as a Star Wars story? Is there anything at all?
This is a hard one because I really like the book, and it could be of the nostalgia of it. But if I had to, this is tough, man. You're gonna have to come back to me
All
on
right,
this.
we'll come back to you.
I gotta hear Jake.
Jake, you
this
gave
is
it a 9
always
you gave it a 9.5, so there's something for you, right?
this is always going to be, and it was one of the better ones. More Millennium Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
More,
All right,
and this,
somebody gift
but they
that. Somebody
just
gift that. There we go. Gift
they
that
just
sucker.
left the Millennium Falcon hanging out over Endor, and I'm like, we could have so many Falcon adventures.
Yeah.
I don't, and that's why I've always loved the movies on things. It's just I love the ships, and the traveling and stuff like that.
There is this, Jake. There's another Millennium Falcon in this book. There's an exact replica.
Yes, there is. I was gonna say this one did pretty good compared to you had a little at the end there. You had some Falcon time going out in the battle. I think when I was a kid, I watched The Empire Strikes Back the most because it just was the movie that had the Millennium Falcon in it the most. And so that's what, as far as like more serious things I don't think it really. There's really nothing I could put my pinpoint on to say it's lacking in that. I mean, I was happy with the Luke and the Leia and the Han stuff. I'm glad that Lando was in it. I'm glad that we still had shades of we still had the Empire, even though it was a whatever. What's the saying? The something of its former self.
The remnant.
Yeah.
A shadow of its former self.
We had new places. I loved Card and Mara, so we had a little bit of the underworld side of things. I think that's when I remember kind of reading through it the first time and talking to some of you guys as I was doing it. Like my personal review of it wasn't really. I was like, it's just good. And I think part of that goes back into I really don't feel like there was anything left out or too goofy other than the salamanders and the super buff old guy that really
Buff Obi-Wan
became a district. Yeah.
Look at these abs.
Dumbledore.
That's hard.
Dumbledore's abs. I mean, look at these suckers.
Take that, Grand Admiral.
You could grind the zest of a lemon on those.
But I don't know, anytime, my answer is always going to be what's the faster, more intense, more Falcon, more Falcon. Anytime we
there you
get
go.
more Millennium.
I mean, that's a great criticism. It could be faster and more intense.
Really good.
It gives you 2 Falcons, and yet your number one critique is you need more Falcon.
Falcons. Yeah.
That's great. You got something yet, Freddy? I will say in the chat to give you more time. Cheryl has said for her the number one detractor, if anything, she loves the book, is that Jarua Sabayoth is super creepy. I will say in a 2020, like, hey, we're in the age of Me Too. We're a little bit better at understanding boundaries with creepy men toward women. Jarua Sabayoth, he's trying to experiment on Jedi, on a pregnant woman. That is not okay. It is really, really disturbing.
It really wants to get in the mind. We talk about the violation of just space and stepping into it. He really likes to get in to the most private of the areas.
I will say this much about Jarua Sabayoth. He could at least button up his robe. Am I right? All right. What you got, Freddy? Anything? Does anything miss the mark?
I'm going to come at it at a different angle. And I think the reason why a lot of people are bashing on it, there's two camps, right? And this is where I'm going to come from, because I don't really feel like there's anything wrong with it in my point of view. But I feel like what a lot of thing here's what's happening in my opinion. I feel like people are reading it as a 91 story, right? It was written a long time ago in the 90s, and the stylized version of or what it is, right? The way it reads is from the 90s. I feel like a lot of people are forgetting that we're in the 2000 or the 2000s now, upper to or the 2020. Style has changed since the 90s. Style has changed
Yeah.
in movies, style has changed in books, and I feel like people
Oh,
are
yeah.
reading it as if it's still supposed to be relevant. That's one of the things that I've seen, at least. I would say the other thing is a lot of people are used to the current Thrawn, which is he's more he's just as strategic, but he's not as
He's
malicious.
an anti-hero, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so people like that, and honestly, I like that too. I like both. I think they both lend some pretty scary things to the story. I would definitely fear old Legends Thrawn a little more than current Thrawn. I feel like if I was at least a useful person, he would leave me alone. But this other one, maybe not so much. But I
Yeah.
personally, I feel like people are reading it as if it's a 2000s book, right? It just doesn't read the same. The style is different. You're not going to see a buff Albus Dumbledore on a Harry Potter book,
No,
right?
no.
But
I mean,
maybe if it was
the covers alone. I mean, they have not especially aged well. I love them for that. I actually think they've gotten better over
Yeah.
time. A lot of people have said, like I said last week, Club Jade ranked these some of the worst Star Wars covers ever. In fact, Del Rey just re-released new covers this decade. But yeah, they don't age especially well in the writing style is different in terms of Star Wars books. In particular for me, the one big thing is in that category, the things that didn't really age well is the incredibly frequent use of Star Wars tropes. I mean, Zahn is looking. Thrawn himself got a Thrawn poster right there. He's looking at me this entire time as I'm criticizing his book. I'm feeling a little scared with his red eyes. He's literally staring right at me since I moved my desk. Anyway, the number one thing that's disturbing in terms of this book just is really kind of getting under my skin is its incredibly frequent use of Star Wars tropes. There's a lot of reused dialogue from the original trilogy. You know what I'm talking about? You've got...
Didn't Zahn talk about doing that intentionally, though?
Yeah, he did, but Zahn, bless his heart, has a way of acknowledging his faults and explaining himself out of his storytelling problems rather than taking the criticism and saying, I should work on that. He just defends himself. He just doubles down. So the number one thing that bothers me here is that there's a lot of people, 2 or 3 times in this book alone, it's egregious. How many times people say, I've got a bad feeling about this? I mean, it's coming up a lot.
Hey,
there's
it's me.
Yeah, exactly. There's an entire point in this book where Han and Leia are having a conversation, and Leia, for real, explicitly quotes. She says this: "I am not a committee." And that didn't need to happen. Like, you can understand that it's Han and Leia, even if she doesn't say, "I am not a committee."
See, for me, it kind of helped in some cases because I could, I don't know, when you think about Star Wars books, I can read those and I can hear the voices of the characters in my own head versus other books that I read.
Yeah, well, he does a
read
great job with that. He does.
Yeah, but those were nice little moments for me where I was able to hear that character's voice, and if I maybe was trailing off, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. I mean, there were some moments where I'm just like, okay, he's copied the script down, but I did there were some times whenever I thought to myself, I can hear them saying that right there.
Yeah, for me it was just a little eye rolly, and I've read this book maybe 7 times. This was the first time that it bothered me. So maybe it's just that I've read the book too many times. We'll just say it's my fault, not Zahn's. But it was Zahn's fault.
Well, I think about that. If I would going through read it again, it was now it will stick with me as I go in and read it. So
yeah, for sure. I will say, once you've read 200 Legends books, this one stands out as especially egregious in terms of
hot chocolate?
Its reuse of original trilogy dialogue. All right, is that your complaint, Freddy? The hot chocolate?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it, and I even looked at the show notes. I was like, oh yeah.
Oh, Cheryl wants to say, for the
that.
record, got to put it on the record that she likes the quote of, I am not a committee, and she also says that she likes the hot chocolate, and she also says that Greedo shot first. Okay. What did you want to say, Freddie?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like there's times where I read something and it kind of takes me out, and I just kind of like do one of those, and then I just keep reading. And
Yeah.
that was one of them, right?
Yeah.
Like you just kind of, it takes you out for like a second, and you just think about it, and you just move on. But definitely the hot chocolate. It just it
So
wasn't.
what Freddie's talking about here, if you haven't read the book, is early on when we're first reintroduced to Luke in this book, he is established very clearly as good boy Luke, capital
Yeah.
G, capital B, good boy Luke. This is not Luke of the Last Jedi. This is Luke as a hero who has leveled up in a big way. Not only is he like almost a Jedi master at this point, he also is so good that he would never touch an alcoholic beverage. He drinks hot chocolate. And for me,
Isn't Lando the one who gave it to him? Because that was the biggest
he's
thing
like,
to me.
this is an exotic beverage. You're gonna love it.
No way, Lando. Because if I remember, didn't they try to make it seem like it probably would be like, oh, Lando set me up with this exact whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I can imagine. Only imagine what Lando's giving in there, and it's like hot chocolate, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not Corellian whiskey, which is Han's favorite drink. Leia's favorite is Alderanian wine, and because she's a mom, you gotta have that white wine. But for
2 ice cubes, please.
For Luke?
Only 2.
For Luke, it actually becomes an inside joke in Legends. Let's keep a count, Freddie. Every book that mentions hot chocolate, let's start the show off with sipping some hot chocolate, especially now that we get into winter. It happens a lot. Happens a lot for sure, which is Luke is like, he's such a good boy. He doesn't drink alcohol. He drinks hot chocolate. He's got terrible teeth because of it, all the sugar. He got Austin Powers teeth, definitely. But this book ultimately is really successful. It's a New York Times #1 bestseller for a reason. And that is because it really does establish this universe, and it reestablishes the old universe, but it also sets off the new with an incredible foundation. We've talked about where it misses the mark, but let's talk about some of the things it's successful with. How in particular, Jake, do you think Heir to the Empire contributes to the world building of the EU? I don't know how many Legends books you've read, and that's fine, but how can you imagine that this book establishes the foundation for this new era of Star Wars storytelling?
Well, I think the biggest thing is kind of like what I was talking about before with just the whole idea, George Lucas, his mentality with each movie is that you were supposed to build and add new places and new different characters. And I like that they didn't revisit any planets in this one, in Heir to the Empire, that were from the original trilogy. And I think that was kind of important to do because of that world building, to kind of jumpstart people to remember and see and focus on the fact that, there's more out there than Hoth and Tatooine especially because it shows up all the time. So, I think Zahn was probably in a pretty nice spot here because he didn't have to create the whole world within the world, but I think he set the precedent of this, we can tell a story and it can be a good story and we don't have to go back to Tatooine all the time. I mean, even Lando didn't return to Cloud City. We have the establishment of Coruscant, which I didn't realize that Zahn created Coruscant, and George Lucas used that and took that for the prequel trilogy. And I think it was really cool to see a lot of those types of things. And like I said, Zahn didn't really have the responsibility of creating this new world. I mean, we're talking about a galaxy here. The possibilities are endless. There's thousands, millions maybe of planets that they could go to. Yeah. But I think he really set that precedent that you can tell a story with these characters and never set foot in any of the places that you know and love, and it's still going to be a really good story.
I hadn't thought about that, Jake. They don't go back to original trilogy locations, really.
Yeah. So, it wasn't really that he was kind of was doing a good job of creating this world outside the world. I think he was just saying and doing, being able to say, we can tell this story now without those. And that is what I think probably gave a lot of other writers confidence and
that's a good point.
The excitement
he does empower other authors for sure.
To say, okay, well, to have a successful story, I don't need to have Tatooine here.
We don't need another desert planet.
Yeah. Jakku? Tatooine?
Why does everybody want to go back to the desert? Yeah.
Exactly.
What do
So
you think,
that's just kind of my take on it. I think you did a good job.
Okay, so I'm gonna Doctor Who everyone real quick and take everyone back to the 90s, right, when this book first came out. And granted, you're in the Dark Ages. You're not. I would say it's the beginning of the Dark Ages. You're not, or maybe it's right in the middle. I would say it's right in the middle of the Dark Ages, and you don't really have anything new from Star Wars that's too out there, right? You don't have anything that's big. It's all I would almost say like it's underground. You've got Power of the Force series, which was pretty hot around,
Yeah.
I want to say like 94, 95, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And you don't really have anything new. And what Zahn did was he, like Cheryl said, he brought back, or he didn't bring back, he created Coruscant. He
Yeah.
created Coruscant. Imagine reading a book and you're just like, what the heck is this planet? Because you've only seen what you've seen, right? You've seen Hoth, you've seen a lot of other planets, but you've never seen Coruscant and you've never seen Kashyyyk, right? So you're just imagining like these giant trees in your head, and you know, people who read it now, you take it for granted that these planets that he just built, right? And we've seen them already, but going back and thinking about how much he built, right? He got Thrawn, and he got Mara Jade in there too. Oh my goodness! I mean, this guy, he did a lot for Star Wars. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, you know, in some big ways, Mirkr comes back up in the New Jedi Order. It plays a significant role at a pivotal book in Star by Star. Mirkr is the main setting. You know, we find, of course, Mara being one of the major Legends characters. We've got a debate going on in the chat between Cheryl and Skooma Joe, which is a ton of fun to see. Welcome, Skooma Joe, to the chat. One of our Discord enthusiasts. I'll say Legends. The Grand Admiral of Legends is Skooma Joe. And he is busting out some factoids on us. Of course, these are actually in the show notes. And so you've stolen my thunder, Skooma Joe, which is that technically Timothy Zahn didn't invent Coruscant. He named Coruscant. And so George Lucas had the idea for a planet-wide city. And then Ralph McQuarrie did incredible concept art. We'll see if we can find it and post it in the Discord. Since that's Skooma Joe's, you know, his habitat. Like Salamari on Mirkr. You know, Skooma Joe lives on Discord. You know, we'll say this much, that this was something that was in the West End Games material that then Zahn incorporated, and he named, and that name stuck, and then was incorporated into the prequels, which it's a pretty big honor. George doesn't really acknowledge the I would say the EU. He doesn't acknowledge Legends very much, not very much at all. And so for him to throw a bone to Timothy Zahn is pretty cool, for being honest. And so, you know, it establishes so many things. The maneuver that Luke pulls in order to escape the Imperial tractor beam comes up again in Rebels, as does the several other Star Wars books, as well as the maneuver
Marg
that happens.
Sable.
Yeah, the Marg Sable from the very first chapter, that comes up again in Rebels. There you go, with some Legends Rebels crossover factoids, Jake.
And the Clone Wars, don't they? They tie in the Clone Wars too, because it's
Oh, okay, yeah. It's Clone Wars, yeah.
Well, it's Rebel. He does it in Rebels, but there is the tie-in with the Clone Wars because Ahsoka.
Wow.
I thought it was somewhere. It was implied that the character Vader knew what it was because of what he remembered as Anakin. So there's some connection there. That's a whole different story, though. But it was from the Legends. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. Let us know, everybody in the chat, what your number one world building aspect of Heir to the Empire is. I think for me, it might be the hot chocolate. No, just kidding. I think that it's I've blanked on his name. It's either like a toss up between Gilad Pelion, or, you know, his character arc is absolutely just heartwarming and heartbreaking in Legends. It's just so perfect. Incredible Imperial, my favorite Imperial for sure in Legends. And it's a toss-up between everybody's favorite Imperial or everybody's most hated Rebel, which is Borsk Phalia, or as I like to call him, Warsk Phalia, because he's the worst for sure. That was a bad dad joke, but I am definitely rocking some suburban dad energy. You got anything? Who's your favorite of the two, Freddy? Is it Borsk or is it Gilad?
I every time I read Borsk, his character, I just dislike him so much. Uh, I don't. I would definitely say I don't know, man. This is a tough one.
I would
There-
say,
there-
do you love to hate Borsk Phalia more than you love to love Gilad Pelion? That's the question.
So I like Pelion because he's competent yet incompetent, right? And he's definitely coming in at our point of view where he's asking all the right questions. You just accept you expect someone with his rank in the military to be a little more strategic and intelligent, but I mean, there's a reason why he's there, and I like the without him the story wouldn't read anywhere close to what I mean. Zahn would be even more of a mystery, and it would just wouldn't make sense. So I mean, I like that. But I love to hate Borst, man. I love to hate him.
I do too. I especially love the way that he, comes along in the Legends continuity. How he goes from like Thrawn's understudy to eventually, becoming the good Imperial, right? The Imperial who actually has his head on straight. He's not an egomaniac. He's not megalomaniacal. I'm not sure if that's even a word, but I just said it. I said the word. And thank you, Andrew, for that bit. Who wants to say that he also loves... I don't know if I want to say this. This sounds a little bit raunchy. All right, I'm going to say it. He says he loves some Pelion stash. Yum, yum. All right, let me get closer to the mic. He says yum, yum. All right, I'm going to grow a stash. I'm going to grow a stash this winter
yum.
just for Andrew. Do some Pelion cosplaying. We'll see. Yeah, Phalia is a love-hate. If I was going to cosplay as Phalia, I'd need to grow out some real body hair, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh man,
He is one hairy character. And he's really utilized well by a lot of authors because he's easy to write. He's after his own agenda. He's pursuing his own politics. He's your example of somebody who is corrupt and yet competent in Legends on the good side, right? He's a rebel. He's in the New Republic. This is one of the big things that's, I think, being established very well. There's a lot of nuance in this book in how we see the development of the rebels going from being a rebellion, a guerrilla warfare movement, to becoming a government, right? If you're a Hamilton fan, fighting a war is easy, but governing's harder, right? This is a big transition that's happening, and we do want to say that in Heir to the Empire, this is one of the big transitions that's happening. So Jake, as somebody who's read a lot of the new canon, who's pretty well entrenched in the modern day Star Wars, we see the Republic go to the Rebellion, to the New Republic, to the Resistance. How about in Legends? How do you see this book establishing this new chapter, where the Rebellion goes from being a movement to a government?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of the same. I feel like with new canon, what a huge piece of their what they've tried to achieve between the Aftermath trilogy and Bloodline was, I think they tried to take a slower approach to like answering some of the questions about things that were probably skimmed over.
Yeah.
With the establishment of this New Republic government in the Legends books.
It's a little haphazard in Legends.
Yeah, which is understandable. I mean, you can't hold that against anybody. I mean, Zahn started this big movement with these expanded universe books, and everybody else essentially kind of had to backtrack. And there was more of a I always say that wrong.
Concerted. That's good.
Concerted effort with the new canon, which I think was really effective. I wasn't like turned off. But I don't know why I keep saying what's turning me on and turning me off tonight. I wasn't really turned off by the way that the new government was. I think why I hated Phalia the most, and this kind of plays into it, was that he, we got the little bit of an explanation of like where he was during the original trilogy and what he was doing. But my thing with him was always like, who is this guy? Like Leia was there from the beginning, and the things that she went through and what she was involved with. Mon Mothma popped up in Return of the Jedi, which that character that was always my issue with him, is I was like, why is everybody listening to this guy and supporting this guy and okay with this guy questioning these people that are literally the reason why this government is here right now? That and I can understand that, and you try to get in the mentality of like how would people be whenever you move into those situations that you want to avoid what you had before, and you got new voices and that kind of stuff. And I don't I don't know. I don't not have anything to say about it. I like the new canon establishment better, but I love the Aftermath trilogy, but that's just that's beside the point right now. I didn't dislike the new government or the government that was established in Heir to the Empire. I thought it was as effective as it could be. I truly, the way I guess I think of it is it's just another version of the same story to me, and I just like the canon one better.
In particular, what it establishes well is that you have some people in the new government who are not part of the rebellion, who are using the victories and the accomplishments of the rebellion as political stepping stones to their own career. And that's what Phalia does. Many Bothans died to bring us this information. So he is like, hey, I'm a Bothan and I want to have power. So he moves into power for his people, not for the galaxy, and for his own, political career. So he's not afraid to throw like Admiral Akbar under the bus, and we as the reader were like, hey, we love Akbar. We love some fish face.
That's a trap.
Yeah, absolutely. We love to quote that stuff. So, how dare you get Akbar arrested at the end of the book? And so, one of the things it shows is there were heroes on both sides, and there's villains on both sides. Freddy, do you want to chime in on this? How do we see the birth of the New Republic in this book?
You know what really turns me on? The Republic.
Oh, no.
Democracy.
Democracy.
I love
democracy.
Democracy.
Anyway,
I love democracy.
So you begin to see the true form of what they're trying to go for, right? Out of all, I guess, rebellion, there has to be a struggle and there has to be a battle. And they basically arise from violence, and they're trying to be the opposite of, and this is, everybody knows this, they're trying to be the opposite of what they just destroyed, which is, and I'm not sure, I'm getting canon and legends mixed up, but they get rid of weapons as much as possible. I believe that, I'm not sure if that's canon or legends. I'm blanking
it's
right
canon.
Now. It's canon. Whereas, I don't think it's the same in Legends, but you can see there's like a laying the arms down. We're going to be a little more peaceful. We're going to try to help everybody out. And you see it in this book, right? Leia helps out the Nogri into getting recognition in the Republic, and
forgot about sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that just made me think about the senator that Han and Lando go. We haven't talked about him at all. Senator Bel Iblis.
He's not in this book.
Oh, okay, crap. Well, I just that.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
But to play off what Freddy was saying, that was what it was making me think of was, the laying down of arms, but the coming together of the power and seeing those characters differently. So I didn't mean to hijack your thing there. I just
no, it's good.
I'm gonna hijack your point with something that's not even in this book.
We'll revisit that point in another book.
yeah, with Timothy. Timothy's gonna be our guest, not you, Jake.
Yeah,
you're out of here.
It's okay. It's good thing this is part 2 because I wouldn't be asked to come back.
Part the last.
Just going back to it, right? You start to see the maturity of the rebellion, because they're no longer calling themselves the rebellion, and you can kind of see that shift in the book, right? They're like, well, they're the Republic now, the new Republic, and you see how mature everyone's becoming, and you're starting to see the political games, right? Because everyone was on the same team before, but now that there's a little more safety, they can go after each other, and you see that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. They do go after each other, which it's pretty cutthroat. I mean, it leaves me pretty conflicted throughout this book to feel like, oh man, why are we going after Akbar? He's not the right, and eventually we're going to find out what's actually happening, who the leak is, and it's not what I was expecting first read through. In fact, the first few read throughs, I was like, I don't know who the spy is, and I've read these books before. And so you feel that like not all is well, even though the rebels won the Battle of Endor. They have not yet successfully establish their control over the galaxy. It really is a make it or break it moment for the New Republic. It's, of course, also, make it or break it for the EU. This is a massive turning point in Legends. Zahn has to establish his villains. And what's interesting is there's actually two pretty big villains in this book. And I'm not talking about Hot Chocolate and Borskvalia. I'm talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn himself and Jeruis Sabayoth, which is kind of a bold move to begin your new trilogy with two villains instead of just one. And they're teaming up, but they don't really like each other. It's kind of layered, which is fun. But Thrawn really is one of the most memorable Legends villains. However, my biggest gripe with the book is I find the ending lackluster. I like the final battle, but it's anticlimactic because at the end, Thrawn says, "Oh well, it didn't actually matter at all, and we're still pursuing our ultimate plans." All right, like he doesn't. That was a terrible impression. I tried and I failed.
I liked it.
I'm just gonna layer in the exact quote from the audiobook, and nobody's ever gonna know. Just gonna edit that in. That's the perks of being your own editor. Thrawn really is one of the most memorable Legends villains. But let me ask you, Freddy, did Thrawn ever have a chance, honestly, of reestablishing the Empire?
No chance. He had no chance. And
none? 0% chance?
Yeah, you've got.
What are the odds,
Jedi.
Freddy? Tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds.
Original trilogy really quote. You could be Timothy Zahn.
He didn't have a chance, and the reason is you've got a deranged dark Jedi, right, on your team, who's not really on his team. It's almost like he just wants to get rid of this guy the second he can. But you've got Luke Skywalker, you've got basically the Jedi on one side, and you've got Thrawn on the other side, and there's no way the Force is going to let Thrawn thwart the light side. It needs to come back, right? They're just like, all right, this balance, we've had enough of Sidious, we've had enough of Vader, boom with the light side until you get some darkness here and there and naked palps everywhere.
Oh yeah, there we go. Wow, that is not something I'd ever considered. Look what you have made. He says. What odds would you give Thrawn, Jake? Any better odds than Freddy? Freddy's kind of shooting low on this one.
The way I kind of saw it, what I always kind of imagined would be the most realistic way that it would have happened is that the kind of, as we start to nod back to the Clone Wars, maybe, but almost like the galaxy would have been split into factions. And I think that should have probably been Thrawn's more realistic goal. I like that Freddy brought it up in terms of the Force, because I'd never really thought of it that way, that the Force was the manipulator here. The Force was the one that was controlling this, and the Force wouldn't have let that happen. Because I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it in a more literal way of just general people. And maybe I'm forgetting the fact that the Force has an impact over, because I think of it in terms of like, we talk about this in some of my classes. Humans are inherently evil creatures, and they're selfish, and they're a survival of the fittest kind of scenario. And they, you kind of look at this whole scenario with the New Republic is that these people, these insurgents within this society, as the Empire painted them as being terrorists almost, they finally get to the point where they're the ones who are governing the galaxy, but they've got to find somebody to rebel against, and so they end up doing it towards each other. And so I part of me thinks that I think Thrawn would have had a chance, because I feel like in the galaxy there were plenty of people there who, the same way that you look at any totalitarian government, that are kind of brainwashed into loving it because they like the order and the focus, and they don't realize how bad they have it. But I don't think we saw enough of what else was going on in the galaxy to really get a feel for that. So I think it's hard to say I think you would have had a chance, but it never would have been the same thing as it was, because especially with the establishment in this book, that the Emperor himself had so much impact on how the military operated and what they were able to do.
Yeah, it's a good point. I really go back and forth on this a lot. I'll save some of my critique here for our episode on The Last Command, which we'll get to in just a few weeks. And that is to say that it seems to me that Thrawn was only going down from the inside. He was not going to be taken down by the rebels. They were never going to be able to touch him. They were never going to figure out. They could never get a step ahead of him. In this book, he's always one step ahead. He eventually doesn't win the battle, but he's still got a plan that's in motion that they don't even have a handle on. They don't have any way to beat him. There's no battle strategist other than maybe Akbar, but Akbar's been arrested at the end of this book, which is an absolute masterstroke by Zahn. And so it's something that works really well in terms of saying, well, this guy's kind of going to be untouchable. Thrawn is somebody who I always believed would have succeeded if he hadn't neglected his own blind spots. And we'll save, we'll save that for another day. We'll talk about what those blind spots are. You have to read our other books in the series. Dark Force Rising, I think it's the first time I've ever even pulled these off the shelf since I bought them, and The Last Command. If I can just figure out where my freaking camera is. All right, somewhere around here. All right, here we go. Yeah. Dark Force Rising. Oh, okay, you're flexing your new covers.
No, new is not always better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. New's not always better.
All right, one last major question before we start to wind things down tonight. We'll say welcome to Rob Neese, who has joined us late, but fashionably so. So welcome, Rob. Glad to have you here with us on Legends Lookback. And so the big question that we've got, of course, tying the fact in that Thrawn has been recently recanonized, which was absolutely one of the most exciting moments for me ever as a Star Wars fan. Star Wars Celebration Europe, in what feels like eons ago. In a Star Wars Celebration Europe, was that 2016, Freddy?
Yeah, because 2015 was in, I believe, in Anaheim again.
In Anaheim, yeah, in California. So you were paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old school Celebrations fiend. I went back when it was in LA. I think that was like.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've never been. But now that it's been canceled for this year, hey, maybe I can make the next one, which is cool. But in 2016, there's no way I can make that one unless we go all Doctor Who like Freddy.
I was in Germany, I think.
Okay, cool. At that one, there was this massive moment for all Thrawn, Zahn, EU fans, which was that Thrawn was going to be making his return to canon in both Rebels and a new standalone novel from Timothy Zahn himself. And believe it or not, can you believe this? Star Wars fans on the internet began to speculate. Some of the opinions were good, some of them were terrible. Just like us. We're going to have some good ones, we're going to have some bad ones tonight too. And that's this. One of the major pieces of speculation leading into Season 3 of Rebels, which was going to reintroduce Grand Admiral Thrawn, was this crazed Darth Maul going to serve the same function in the story as the crazy clone Jeruis Sabaoth back in Heir to the Empire. Jake, do you think this would have worked in Rebels to have Maul serve the same role that Sabaoth played? Do you think Thrawn could have manipulated him to use him for his own agenda? Or do you think that it's just a fundamentally different character?
I mean, I do think fundamentally it's a different character. And for me, it's so hard because the way that things are is so established.
Go back to the summer of 2016, Jake.
Yeah.
If there's one thing to be said about our podcast is that we're fashionably late with this stuff.
Well, it does not seem. I could see it happening. I could, with Thrawn needing that person, and I could see Thrawn kind of. I don't know. See, so much of that time period with Rebels, I think where it would have hurt is that so much of that time period with Rebels was focused on the fact that the Jedi were gone and that they were no more. And you had Tarkin that was kind of in there. And so it was almost like you got Ezra and Kanan that were running around as like almost impersonators because they didn't want, the Inquisitors were still there hunting people down, but like it's almost like the role was different. Like it would have been interesting to see how Thrawn would have gone to Maul and said, okay, I've got to, I want you to be this person to be able to, because the Force wasn't, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
battle meditation isn't nearly enough of a thing in canon.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna make red hats that say this. Make battle meditation canon again.
Yeah. That would be.
I like it.
Would it work?
I didn't like the idea of
The number one Force power in all of Legends, battle meditation. Somebody, a Jedi or a Sith, sits in a room and they think really hard about war, and everybody fights harder. Extremely
I think
OP.
if they would have brought in Maul to do that, they would have been giving so much more credit to that side of the Force that would have pulled away from Vader and the Emperor, who were essentially at their peak at this time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would have fit Thrawn's characterization or Maul's characterization, really, for Thrawn to say, okay, I need this person to be able to do this for me, when you got Vader and the Emperor over there sitting there being like, well, what do you have us? Why do you need to go get Maul to do this? And you have us?
Sure. You've got Vader and the Emperor in that same time period. I hadn't thought about it that way. Whereas in Legends, Thrawn is the big bad. He's the Godfather. He's large and in charge.
He needs one. He doesn't have a Vader and an Emperor at his disposal, so he's got to go out and find where one would be.
Yeah, so he's recruiting his own Vader. That's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
His own bare-chested, ab-infested Vader. Rob Neese makes a great point in the chat, which is in Legends he has the Ysalamari, which makes Sabayoth a variable he can control. Whereas Maul, he's not going to be very controllable. He's learned his lesson, not to be manipulated by a big Imperial villains. That's an excellent point from Rob in the chat. What do you think, Freddy? Do you think it would have worked to have Maul, function as the Sabayoth role?
Nah, not even a little bit.
I mean, come on, they're both crazy. They're both Darksiders. What else do you need? You got Thrawn?
So
you got Skywalkers?
Yeah, it seems like it would work, but I don't feel like Darth Maul is as crazy as Sabayoth is. I feel like Sabayoth is literally a guy you pick up on the street and you're just like, hey, and you're just like, oh, dude, stay away from me. But
I know, man. I think he's a different kind of crazy. Maul is so
Maul is
a different kind of crazy.
Psychotic
crazy. A Star Wars
opinion.
story. What's that, Freddy?
I think Maul is a psychotic crazy, whereas Sabayoth is just like some dude on the side of the street who's just lost his marbles kind of guy.
Let me take your babies.
Yeah. Whereas, you could see Maul
that
saying,
was an
I'm gonna
excellent
take your
impression.
kids. I'm gonna train them. I don't know. I don't feel like it's the same. And Maul doesn't give me the vibe that I get from Druis. That's all.
Oh man, I need a ringtone of Jake saying, let me take your babies. That was good. This has been quite the episode. Wow. All right, as we're winding down, I've had a ton of fun. I don't know about y'all. This has been just an absolute blast. We're talking about one of the best Legends books there ever was or ever will be, because, Legends is pretty much, for the most part, a closed canon, even though it's not canon. You know what I mean? It's closed. It's happened. It's over. Any book before 2014, including this classic from 1991. What we're talking about, of course, is Heir to the Empire. As we close out, guys, before we wind it all down, let me ask you, what was your favorite part of the book? Everybody in the chat, in the Discord, let us know what's your favorite scene, favorite character, whatever it is, faves in the chat. Freddy, lead us off.
I really liked the beginning. It set the tone of everything. You realized that Luke was going to be on his own, having that second chapter, I believe, with that conversation with Obi-Wan, and he's like, look, this is the last time we're going to talk. And you're just like, oh, shoot. It really sets the mood, and I felt, if it wasn't for that moment, I don't know if I would have felt the same about the whole story, which was like, Luke, you gotta grow up, man. Grow up and move on and get stronger and just beat this thing, because you're it. That's it, man. This is all you, kind of thing. And that moment was my favorite. I read it a few times because I had to let it sink in to really understand what Luke must have been feeling at that moment. So
good. Almost sounded like the Emperor when I said that. Good. All right, it's been a long week. What you got, Jake?
Same thing.
Probably the first
50 pages. That's there's not really an event. I'm trying to think of an event. I personally, I mean, when we started to get towards the climax and some of those things on Merker is where
Merker.
I say Merker.
Only a Southerner would say Merker.
West Virginia down on Merker. But those first 50 pages and stuff where, we're getting reintroduced to the characters. Like Freddie said, we're setting a tone. It was just nice to get back with those characters, and it only kind of went uphill from there. But if I had to go back and relive, I liked that, getting the introduction to them the first time. I guess you got the ending, you got the little showdown on Merker, those types of things, which are exciting moments. But I just, I felt like Star Wars when I started. I think I read through the first 50 pages nonstop. Like I didn't stop after the first chapter because I was just like, this is good. And that's,
one of my favorite nights in all of Youtini was the night that you started Heir to the Empire, because you were just posting a stream of consciousness, which was happening in the Slack. You were just saying like, turns out this book is good. And I was like, yes, Jake, come to the dark side of Legends. Excellent. We got some great answers in the chat. Absolutely great answers. If I can even scroll back far enough to get to all these answers. All right, Cheryl, in all caps, says that Mara and Luke without the Force in the forest is and having to survive together. That's her favorite scene. It really is sheer perfection. I like that a lot. Oh, what do you mean? There's horns curse.
There's horns curse. I will say, because I just like the lore, the conversation between Luke and Mara, where Mara finally tells Luke her backstory. I was really excited to read that.
Well, because he doesn't reveal it until pretty late in the book. Definitely the third act. And so, she elaborates on that to say you've got Luke having to learn to survive without the Force alongside a very angry woman who wants to kill him. So that's pretty fun. And, we all know, of course, where that story goes, which is a ton of fun. All right, we've also got some great answers here from Wes, who says, step off. Don't know what he's talking about. That can't be an answer, but sorry we upset you, Wes. All right, Andrew. All right, here we go. Andrew says, Luke and Mara on Merker. So much sexual tension as they fight for their lives. So great answer there from Andrew, and thanks for that bit. Also want to say thank you to NFL Super Pro for the follow. Glad to have you here on Legends Lookback. Welcome. In just a little bit, we're going to have another stream happening right here on twitch.tv/Youtini_US. There it is. All right. Who else? Rob says he loves he loves Jake's shelves. His favorite part of the book is Jake's shelves.
That's why Jake's single right now, too, actually.
Awesome. Love that. That's why Jake is single. All right.
All my money goes to the shelves,
That's why Jake is single, a Star Wars story. And Skooma Joe says the best part is when Luke drinks hot chocolate, obviously. So Skooma Joe is here to stay. Glad to have you here. Excellent answer. We've also, I do want to say before we wind up, before we wind down, or wind up, if you're going to stay for the Squadron stream, which I am, I'm going to stay up hours from now, because tomorrow's my day off, and I'm excited about Squadrons. To close this out, I will say my favorite part of the book is kind of a toss-up between when Luke escapes his prison shed, because it's a shed. I mean, they're rednecks on Merker, they're real rednecks. The way that they bust out.
It's basically the West Virginia of the galaxy.
The West Virginia. you got critters in the woods.
I can say that.
And so
because I'm from here.
The way that he escapes is by hot wiring his electronic hand, which is pretty cool. He uses the power cell from that, which was a really inventive way to repurpose Return of the Jedi. And Andrew says in the chat, # find Jake Mara Jade. I love that.
This is the hashtag.
Let's find Jake a woman.
Jake.
Let's find Jake a woman who wants to kill him in the woods. There we go. And we've already got Jake's already been gift. Excellent. I love it. And it's a toss-up for me either between the hot wiring the hand or when Luke does his inventive escape from the tractor beam in his X-Wing and then accidentally strands himself. That's really exciting, really inventive, absolutely great touch from Zahn. Next week, however, we're not talking about a Zahn book. We are talking about a swath of Legends characters. Joining us next week, Meg Dowell herself, the Lady of Legends, as I like to call her. I just made that up right here, right now. Does it stick? Does it not? Who knows? It's certainly going to be better than Spready Freddy. But I will say Meg is going to be joining us to talk about the Ladies of Legends, because you know what? We could not do this episode without some female assistance. Am I right? What do you want us to talk about next week? You got a Lady of Legends who you want to see on the episode. We can't talk about every single female character in Legends. So if you have a favorite, let us know in the Youtini Legends Lookback Discord, and or tag me or Freddy on Twitter, and we'll make sure we get her in the show notes. Could not be more excited for that episode. Let us know, and we'll make sure that we cover your favorite female character. In the meantime, that does it for this week. Thanks for joining us on Legends Lookback.